So welcome to this latest episode of Coffee Break Coaching. We're delighted today to welcome Peter Campbell, who's kindly agreed to join us in the conversation. Now, Peter, we probably met about 25 years ago when my daughter was having surgery for hip problems when she was a child, and at that point you were a consultant orthopedic surgeon, and it seems bizarre really that we ran into each other probably about 9 months ago. And as well as being a consultant orthopedic surgeon, you're now a lifestyle health and nutrition coach. Like, yeah, how did the two come together? What is that? What is a lifestyle nutrition and health coach do?
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it was really bizarre that our worlds collided after so long, and I'm slightly flattered that you recognise me, given that I certainly had more hair 25 years ago than I have now. So yes, I'm still working as an orthopedic surgeon, and I guess the transition, as a lot of career transitions happen, they happen quite gradually over a period of time. I became interested in how would I describe it? I'd describe it probably more as the more natural and complementary ways of helping people with their health when I was dealing with some personal health challenges, probably 10, 15 years ago. And that inspired me to want to understand more about how these things could help people. And I ended up with that learning, often just sharing some of that learning with some of my patients in clinic, whether they had various aches and pains and bone and joint problems that surgery could or could not help with. And I began also to become quite passionate about health education and health promotion, not just disease management and disease treatment, which obviously when you're working in the NHS, unfortunately, that tends to be what we end up doing. We don't really have a lot of time to be promoting health. So what I wanted to do was try and marry the two things together. So I'd already done a lot of leadership executive coaching during my NHS career, and with some additional certification training in lifestyle medicine, together with my wife, Nikki, who's also a health coach. We now offer health coaching on a one-to-one or group basis to help people who don't feel that they are ill, but perhaps recognize that they don't have the best possible health. And there is somewhere in between, as most people often are. They're not in great health, but they're not ill enough to go and see a doctor. They just know they're not as good as they could be. And we can often work with those people to try and put some simple, sustainable lifestyle changes in place that helps them have more energy and more balance, more joy, whatever it is they're looking for. So just as rewarding, but kind of tackling health from a different end of the spectrum, I guess. And we try and encourage people to become more aware of the dashboard that their body is trying to tell them, just like the dashboard of the car. So that the bit of a twinge that you're getting, the fact that you're struggling to manage your weight, or whether lose weight or put weight on, the fact that you might be getting, skin problems, headaches, all of those stuff that we put up with and treat, as normal part of our age or life or whatever it might be. That's our body's warning signs. It's like the car flashing, your brakes are failing, or your oil's low, or the fuel's getting low, or whatever it might be. And whilst we crisis manage at work, often we don't crisis manage the car. Very few people drive their car until they've got no petrol before they fill it up. And very few people will, wait until the brakes fail before they get the brake warning light checked out, or the oil, or the temperature gauge. So we are used to being proactive in certain situations. And if we can start to look after our bodies in the same way that we look after our cars, and make sure that, if it's an unleaded car, then we don't tend to put diesel in very often. You do it once and that's probably your lesson learned. But how often do we fuel our own bodies with the wrong type of fuel for our health? And getting awareness around that can be really helpful, and to see some light bulbs come on in people's minds. And that's we've found a really helpful starting point.
And it can be something quite simple, can't it? Because I last Christmas was about to sing "I Gave You My Heart," but that would have been the wrong lyric. Last Christmas, I had a really bad period with my Parkinson's. I was unable to do much. I couldn't get in and out of bed. I thought I'd taken a real dive in terms of my physical symptoms, and we worked out eventually that over the course of the pandemic year and working at home, I hadn't been drinking enough fluid. And I started drinking a lot more water throughout the course of a regular day. And within a week, the improvement had been, it wasn't a cure for Parkinson's, but it was a hell of a cure for lubricating the brain and the body with the right fuel. And it can be little things like that I think people can be quite surprised at how significant they can be in terms of their general well-being. I found, and I certainly now know when I haven't been drinking enough water, because my symptoms will certainly be a little bit more pronounced than they usually are. So even something like that can make a huge difference to somebody's day.
Absolutely right. And hydration is a key point, and it's easy to slip into those habits of not drinking the water. And working from home, how easy to have an extra cup of tea, and because it's all on tap, isn't it? And the other, and some simple things like, what do people have for breakfast? And we've always been told that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and in some ways it's probably true that if you start your day nutritionally on a sound footing, then actually the rest of the day in terms of your energy levels and focus and productivity is likely to be a lot better.
Yeah.
So what is a good breakfast, Peter? Please?
Well, that's a whole new podcast in itself, I think, in terms of, and I think the key principles around breakfast are that breakfast is, as the name suggests, when you break your overnight fast. So I think the key thing is, it doesn't have to be at 7 o'clock or 7:30. It doesn't have to be before the kids go to school. It doesn't have to be before you start work. I think it's about what works for you. So it doesn't have to be at a set time. I think what's important is not when you have your breakfast, but what you have for breakfast. One size is never going to fit everybody, because we're all very different in terms of our nutritional needs and that type of thing. And if we have any other kind of metabolic illnesses or challenges, then that comes into the factor. But for most people, not everybody, most people, they are better starting their day with some protein.
Right.
Too many breakfasts have virtually no protein in it whatsoever. They are largely grain and cereal based, which ultimately, whilst it can give you lots of fiber and it's slowly absorbed by the body, it is converted into glucose, and most of us in the Western world are taking too much sugar in our diets, too much carbohydrate, most people. And if we start with a very carbohydrate rich breakfast, particularly if there's no protein in it, then I don't think that, for most people, that's not going to give them the best start for the day.
And what sort of protein, Peter, is it? Because when I think protein, I think of a nice rump steak, being the carnivore that I am.
I was thinking bacon salami,
or maybe some very lean chicken breast.
I'm a lean chicken.
They're not really breakfast. Not everybody would enjoy a lean steak for breakfast. What sort of things?
So eggs are a great example.
Okay.
Eggs are a great source of protein, and are often underrated. I think they are so versatile. You can almost have eggs for any meal, and they're great. You can even cook an omelette the night before and take it cold if you need something on the go. So I think eggs are always a bit of a good go-to type of place. I think if you're having, generally, most protein comes from some form of animal source or significant protein-based plant sources. So you're looking at pulses and those types of things. And again, they don't traditionally make a great breakfast. Fish, of course, is another good thing for having at breakfast. But many people, if you go on the continent, will have meats and cheeses for breakfast. You have a continental breakfast. That's nice, a lot of protein in meats and cheeses, and a good old-fashioned, English of your bacon, sausage and eggs. Actually, for me, it's not about what's on the plate, it's where it came from. I think one of the challenges around food is that, you know, one day in the press, bacon will give you cancer, and the next day in the press, bacon cures cancer. And, you know, you have this constant yo-yo. And for me, you know, our message is absolutely, it's real food, not processed food. It's locally sourced, seasonally grown. And if for at least 80% of the time, most of your food is real food, locally sourced, seasonally grown, you probably can't go far wrong. And, you know, grass-fed meat and, you know, and grass-fed animal protein is a good source of protein.